When encountering a piece of art, whatever form it is presented in, the mysterious and unknown is throwing itself to us, yet we always expect or desire to immediately make sense of it. It just has to be placed in our conceptual framework to get ourselves in touch with it and comprehend its content. But why? Why should a work of art be comprehensible and so in its instantaneous appearance to the observer? Don't we experience art for its power to invoke imagination and overcome norms? For the new, the unexpected and creative. For all I know, art is an empty canvas being painted by the artist and left unfinished for the spectator to interpret and fill the gaps, only to realize that the actual picture lies beyond the canvas, and that is why it cannot be completed. This indeterminacy and conceptual flexibility we find at the core of Perfectblue, the anime movie directed by Satoshi Kon and released in 1997. Watching Perfectblue for the first time is quite an experience, but it can also be confusing, especially in the second half. The blending of reality and fiction creates a meta-narrative where the boundaries between Mima's real life and her role as an actress begin to blur. This confusion mirrors the audience's own struggle to differentiate between what is supposed to be happening and what is not, forcing us to confront the instability of identity and reality itself. And so it is important to deconstruct the different parts of the narrative to understand their individual significance. However, it is also crucial to consider how our image of the whole evolves our perception of the parts. This is the hermeneutics cycle. We understand the parts the more we understand the whole, and vice versa. Before watching the movie, I was considering what the meaning of the title could be. Out of context, the title Perfectblue doesn't seem easy to make sense of. What makes a shade of a color perfect, if not just aesthetical judgments? For that reason, it crossed my mind that it had to do with philosophical ideas around identity. And I don't think I was wrong. After finishing the movie, I was a bit confused and had quite a lot of questions. The more I thought about it, the more possibilities and meanings came to mind. Now, here's the main basis for my attempt at interpreting what happened. Mima is a pop idol who transitions into acting, and the entire narrative centers around what unfolds after that. From this point, I won't attempt to pin down the literal events of Perfectblue, if that even makes any sense. Instead, I will focus on the themes and meanings that captivated me in my contemplation. As I said, one of the most intriguing aspects of Perfectblue is its exploration of identity. This question is so haunting and deeply existential. At the face value reading, Mima is asking who is that person that is writing as her, but as we see, nothing is to be taken at face value in Perfectblue. This line marks the first moment where the film begins to blur the boundaries between reality and fiction. It's her first line in her first appearance in the TV series Double Bind. And so this is what the starting question is as we are thrown into the search for the real. In the end of the movie, Mima finally answers the question, and hopefully, by the end of this video, we'll be able to make sense of it too. In this part, I identify two concepts that will be important: the idol and the ideal. For that, we need to talk about Plato just a little bit. In Plato's philosophy, there exist two worlds: the realm of being, inhabited by perfect and unchanging things, which is also known as the world of forms, and the realm of becoming, which is the world we come in contact with our senses. And so, for Plato, there exists this world of the perfect forms, and everything in the realm of becoming is just an imperfect copy of them. Now, what is an idol? An idol is an image or representation of a god, used as an object of worship. And so I take the leap here and say that an idol is a representation of the ideal. It is the effort to capture the absolute and pin it like an image. Now, to make things clear, Plato's theory of form does not say that there is a perfect me and a perfect you, but there is a perfect form of human and there is a perfect form of blue. However, Plato does argue that ideals like beauty, purity, and goodness exist in their most perfect forms in the realm of being. And so Mima as an idol depicts those ideals. Having said all that, Mima's transition from idol to actress is a movement away from the image of the ideal and an advance into the ever-changing fluidity of acting. With all the previous things in mind, we find Mima being lost in the tension between the affirmation of her own changing identity and the static idealized version imposed on her by her fans and her manager. While she seeks to grow and embrace her evolving self in the world of acting, she is in a constant state of being observed and feeling alienated for not being the real Mima she sees in the desires of others. And we see that in all those scenes where the idol Mima appears and talks to her. These are not internal conflicts in the sense that there are two Mimas, two different personalities inside her. This is a fight with the image the others have of her. All of this ties into the profound line, "Hell is other people," from Jean-Paul Sartre's play No Exit. Sartre points out that we are being dependent on people's judgments, that we see ourselves as how we are seen by others, by their expectations and evaluations. We allow ourselves to be objectified by them. Those judgments affect our self-image and our relationship with ourselves. The look people give us does not require the physical presence of them. The conceptual presence is enough to set this internal process of alienation in place. If this happens at a large scale, it can truly be hell. Perfectblue takes this idea to the extreme. Rumi literally embodies Mima's idealistic being, and that means Mima's hell is herself. Sartre suggests that authenticity is achieved by breaking free from the cycle of objectifying oneself and instead affirming one's own subjectivity. This means allowing a natural, pre-self-aware sense of self to emerge rather than clinging to a rigid ego. Gilles Deleuze was a postmodern philosopher. His philosophy can be understood as concerned with change. He criticized Plato and other philosophers that advocated for transcendental entities and essentialism, the belief that things have a set of unchanging characteristics that define them. Deleuze claims that identity comes to be from change and potentiality. He is a philosopher of immanence. For Deleuze, there is no deeper or higher levels of being, no hierarchies, only constant process of becoming. This ties into the idea of affirmation, where there is no true negation, only positivity, in the sense of creativity and constant expression of being. I view Mima's transformation from an idol, something fixed, absolute and static, to an actress as an embrace of this nature of change and affirmation. Deleuze's critique of Plato's world of perfect forms helps illustrate Mima's experience in Perfectblue. Mima's sense of alienation isn't rooted in her personal regret about moving away from the idealized virtues of an idol. The conflict is an internalized external one. It's the expectations and judgments of others that impose this static, perfect image of her. For Deleuze, this is all an illusion. There is no substance, no fixed ultimate identity. There is no self, there are only images. And if we are stuck following an image created by other people, we are under the alienation of the idea of alienation. To escape the hell other people create for us is to not be trapped in the object they desire for us to be. It means to affirm our being as becoming and changing. And so Mima goes beyond the idol and the ideal. She overcomes the alienation of the idea of alienation. In this whole scene, we see the end of this obsessive clinging to ideals and absolute fixed identities. It is the death of the idol and the resurrection of the real. It is in this acceptance of indeterminacy of identity that one can find courage and freedom. So what is Perfectblue? It is finding out that there is no perfect blue. I hope I expressed what I understand the final line of the movie to mean. Mima asked the question in her first line as an actress.
あなた、誰なの?
And in the end she finally answers the question.
私は本物だよ。